Last year, I spent over $125,000 on my video production company. And in this video, I'm going to break down some of the specific categories of where I was spending the money, explain to you how I'm using that to fuel growth, and hopefully give you some comparison and make you think a little bit on where you're spending money in your company. If you have any questions along the way, make sure to leave them in the comment section below, and let's get into the video now. Contrary to many business owners out there, I really try to grow my business in terms of profit each year, not so much just hitting a massive revenue number, spending even more than I made, and actually losing money each year in business. The way I look at expenses for my business is, if I put this amount of money in, what is it going to yield on the back end? So if I put $1 into one category, how's it going to turn into $2, $3, or even $4 for my business later on? As an owner-operator, I employ a lot of contractors to help with my business, which was one of my larger line items for the entire year. Last year, I spent over $22,000 hiring out contractors to help me on various shoots across the country. We had shoots in Boston, St. Louis, Minnesota, Omaha, and a bunch of places that I could not get to last year because of double booking or paternity leave or other conflicts in my schedule. I think the highest that I've ever spent on contractors is about $45,000 in a year. And that's the point when you start thinking about, should I hire someone in-house, because you could just hire someone on salary for that amount of money. Another big line item for me was my lease. So the space that we're in right now, my studio that I have here in Granger, Iowa, is very affordable and allows me to have a lot more flexibility in my budget, not spending a ton of money each month on having a lot of overhead for the lease. So with my lease payment and the minimal improvements that I made this year, I spent just about $8,000 this year on my studio space, which is pretty crazy considering some people spend that like in a month on their space if they get a large warehouse or something crazy like that. So definitely not mad about that one, that's for sure. Now that being said, I did shop around a lot when I first got my lease and my space, and let me tell you, I picked the least expensive option for my first place, and I'm really happy that I did that. A lot of people would splurge on a larger place and then they're scrambling each month to try to figure out where the money's gonna come from to cover their overhead. But for me, I got a really minimal price and smaller place, and then I can always scale up from there as we go bigger and better in the future. The next expense that is pretty hefty for me is software. Being an owner-operator, I use a lot of SaaS products or software as a service products to help streamline my business and make it really efficient for people. So I use project management software, I use customer relationship management software, I use website building and maintenance software, I use editing software and other AI plugins that are coming and going as the times go here to make my production company move a little bit smoother. So as far as software goes, I spent about $6,600 last year to kind of manage all that software. And again, I'll talk to other video business owners out there and they're spending that in a month on software. So take this with a grain of salt, depends on how big or small your operation is. A fun way that I've actually gotten that price down is that I've partnered a lot with software companies to either get free or half price software if I do a product collaboration with them or an affiliate marketing partnership or something like that, to use and promote tools that I already use in my business to help other people with that as well. So if you're looking for new and creative ways to get your software costs down, maybe consider reaching out to some of the software companies that you use often and ask them if they want to do a collaboration and see if you can get your prices down. I'm still using the free version of Calendly, and I have not paid for Spotify for the last decade, so suck it, Spotify. The next bigger category for people in our niche is camera equipment. And let me tell you guys, I am extremely frugal with camera equipment. I try not to spend more than $5,000 to $10,000 a year on new gear, and that says a lot for people that are out there dropping $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 on a new camera and a lens kit. So for me, the grand total for all my camera equipment that I bought this year was a whole $5,400. And that really pertained to a new lens that I picked up, a new light, which I'm using to light this video, a drone, and then like a couple other small odds and ends here and there. The beauty about camera equipment is that it holds its value really well, and I tend to buy things that are lightly used and take really good care of it, and it lasts for years and years and years. So another big line item for me is legal and professional services. Luckily this year I didn't have to hire my lawyer for anything. Nobody sued us or anything crazy, which is good, but there is a retainer price that comes with that, as well as my accounting and my CPA that does our bookkeeping, tax prep, and manages all the money side of the business. You don't necessarily have to pay for legal or accounting services, but I find having those people in your corner is always nice when bad things could and will happen. Especially on the accounting side. I'm not an accountant by any means, and I'm not a type A person, so I like having a bookkeeper and an accountant that I can lean on and ask questions about. So I had a couple honorable mentions for expenses that I had this year. Number one being payment processing fees. I could make an entire video about how much I hate payment processing fees, but this is basically when you use a tool like Stripe or Square or any of those card reading or card merchant processors, and they take a 3%-ish cut off of anything that you're invoicing to the client. And while 3% doesn't seem like a whole lot, when you start making excess of $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $1 million a year, and you're taking 3% and giving it to the card processor, that really sucks. Those are things that really add up. I try to invoice direct to client for bigger projects and people that we have on retainer. Some people, it's just easier to pay on credit card though, so it just depends on the client. But this year we spent $2,300 on just Stripe fees alone. So a couple other noteworthy ones to include. This is kind of in the same realm as like Contractors for me, but I hired a short form video editing agency to help me with all my personal branding content early on in the year. And they were charging about $800 or $900 a month for that. I only did that for about 6 months and then cut it off. And lastly, the biggest expenses that I had this year were three things. One was my salary, two was my retirement contributions, and three were taxes. If you haven't figured this out already, taxes suck. And especially as a small business owner, I pay employer tax, employee tax, income tax, and sales tax all in one. So that adds up to a large percentage of our profit at the end of the year, ends up going into taxes. So making sure that I pre-plan for that is super important. I actually have a book that I read called Profit First, which I made a review on. I'll put it up in the card above this. That's a super handy tool to make sure that you're actually saving for taxes. So when Uncle Sam comes knocking and you have a tax bill, you actually have the money saved and you're not gonna like frantically freak out about where that money's gonna come from. The second piece of that, which we just talked about, is my salary. I pay myself a pretty nominal salary, but it is withheld, so I have to pay taxes on that salary, both as the employer and the employee, which is always fun, so that kind of ties it all together. And then the last piece of that is my retirement contributions. So I have an automatic contribution that comes out every month for my retirement that I can then run through my SEP, which is a simplified employee pension. Riveting stuff here, but I like to load up on that as much as I can because all of it is a tax write-off for me through the business, and it's also incentivizing me to invest as much as I can in retirement early so I don't have to work forever, which is super nice. So those three things make up the larger piece of this pie when it comes to expenses, but we're not going to talk about those specific numbers because the IRS could be watching this video. But I've tried to really retract back some of those unnecessary expenses and really make sure that I'm just sticking with the things that I need to get the jobs done in a high production quality for the clients. So my biggest advice if you're watching this video is to invest in things that are going to move the needle for your business. They don't just make you look cool or boost your ego. If you spend $1 here, how's it gonna produce $2, $3, $4 over here on the profit side? So that's the lens that I would look at your expenses through. Take a look at your expenses you spent last year and figure out where can you cut, what was unnecessary, what are things that were avoidable. Those are the kind of conversations you should be having, is just trying to figure out how can you make as much profit come out of your business at the end of this year as you can. Hopefully this breakdown helps you kind of get a little clarity and comparison. If that helps you out, make sure to give this video a big like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do weekly videos on all things marketing, business, entrepreneurship, and social media, so make sure to subscribe for more of those videos in the future. But until next time, my name is Ryan Snod. It rhymes a lot, and I'm out. Peace.